amazing, what was miraculous about this meal was that when they had finished the massive banquet, there were not even enough crumbs left to fill a starving person's hand. We all perceive Jesus' actions, his twisted actions in this story, the conspicuous consumption, the hoarding of resources, as selfish and inhumane and egregious. These are not the actions we expect of Jesus, the first century political rebel, radical in thought and deed, sowing the seeds of uprising against wealth and empire. They are, however, the actions of 21st century first world Christians in the West, evangelical megachurches with towering spires, celebrity preachers sporting designer sneakers, flying off in private jets, millions in dark money to undermine democracy and bodily autonomy. In Christian thought, people learn of Jesus through those who claim to live out the way of Jesus today. So this is what I've learned of Jesus from watching his followers, that what was truly amazing, what was miraculous about this meal was that when they had finished the massive banquet, there were not even enough crumbs left to fill a starving person's hand. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to look at our Bezoses and Gateses and hedge fund billionaires and celebrity billionaires and say, it is your fault. We say, I did not choose to be a practicing capitalist. It is the system I was born into. It is so clear to us the shortcomings of those who claim to be Christian, but whose actions are far from what Jesus modeled. We see those who have more than us, but who do less than us. They are the Jesus who would eat like a king in full view of the starving people. Since we've been spending time in the Christian scriptures, I'm reminded of another Jesus story, an incident that takes place a few weeks after the miracle of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes. In this story, a rich young man goes to Jesus and says, I've done everything right. I've followed all the commandments. What more do I need to do? Jesus responds, go and sell all your possessions and give your money to the poor. And when he heard this, the young man went away sad, for he had a lot of stuff. Sometimes this line from the Christian Bible rings through my head. He went away sad, for he had many possessions. You see, I go away sad every day because I have many possessions. I like my stuff. I stock up on foods and snacks, afraid that one day I might run out. I have closets full of expensive clothes that I don't wear because I like how owning those items makes me feel. I hold on to trinkets and call them treasures for their sentimental value, for how they remind me of the people I've loved and the places I've been. I have decided to own a vehicle. There are multiple unoccupied bedrooms in my house. I collect and eat a vast mountain of fish and bread in full view of starving people when I hoard my time, my money, my housing, and transportation. She goes away sad, for she has many possessions. What if the young man had gone to Jesus and said, I've done everything right. I've followed all the commandments. I've stocked the free little pantry. I've fulfilled my UUCC pledge. I make coffee for social hour. I'm on 5 committees. I write UU the Vote postcards. I compost my food waste. I don't eat meat. I subscribe to community solar. I join in Black Lives Matter vigils. I've read my anti-racism books. I live by a covenant. I cook meals for people when they're sick. I visit them in the hospital, and I'm kind and compassionate to every person I meet. What more do I need to do to be a good person? What if Jesus' response had been, open your neighborhood and your house to the dispossessed, even if it causes your housing values to fall? If you earn an income in Baltimore City, don't take it away to the suburbs. If you believe Black lives matter, then Black neighborhoods matter and Black cities matter. Live and share your money in a way that we can finally install air conditioning in Baltimore City schools. Stop buying electric cars, but fund new bus lines and build affordable housing instead of parking lots. Do this. Even if your life becomes slightly less convenient, even if you lose some home equity, even if you're afraid that another kid getting something means your kid getting less. Because all this, Jesus says, is still easier than selling all your possessions and giving all your money to the poor. Would the young man still be sad? Would I go away sad? Would you go away sad? Our chalice lighting poem this morning, We Feed Each Other by Drew Jackson, highlights this scarcity mindset that is our way of life. There isn't enough to go around, the engine that drives our way of life. We've been sold this narrative and bought it at the open-air market of neoclassical economics. Scarcity, the limited availability of a commodity. 5 loaves and 2 fish will only get you so far. You see, the behaviors of Jesus in this story and our own practices of hoarding and consumption make sense when we decide that generosity is miraculous. If our baseline is scarcity, if we believe in the limited availability of a commodity, if we believe that 5 loaves and 2 fish are all that exist, then we must hoard and we must consume. Any act of generosity then is miraculous. Generosity is unnatural in this paradigm, atypical, a rare experience, an elusive phenomenon. If our baseline is greed, then generosity is a miracle. If our baseline is capital and gain, then mutuality is a miracle. Generosity, as described in the Article 2 draft, turns that paradigm on its end. The proposed language of Article 2 reads, we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Interdependence, the recognition that our faith, presence, and resources are intricately intertwined in relationships visible and invisible, that all we have is already shared. Mutuality, the giving and receiving of our faith, presence, and resources to and with and for and from each other. If our baseline is interdependence, then generosity is natural. There is nothing miraculous about it. If within our interdependent web, all we have is already shared, giving then is not a matter of handing something off, passing something along, or moving something between entities. My resources belong to everyone because I belong to and am part of everyone. Generosity, therefore, means that I give not because I have something to give, but because there is nothing I can give that is mine to give. This is the reality alluded to in Drew Jackson's poem, We Feed Each Other. Before we were taught scarcity, before we bought that narrative in the open-air market of neoclassical economics, we were taught ujamaa, familyhood, a Swahili word describing a commitment to the practice of shared social wealth and the work necessary to achieve it. The poem continues, but we were taught ujamaa before we internalized the empire's mantra, blessing and breaking what little we have. A generosity built on interdependence is ujamaa. This generosity is not a miracle, nor is it miraculous. It is a manifestation, a natural output of our interdependence. It is a restoration of who we were meant to be, blessing and breaking what little we have. May it be so. And now I invite you to stand, and we'll sing with Michael and the choir one more hymn, hymn 128, For All That Is Our Life.